Welcome back to Around the 412. We are part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am Tyler, and with me as always is Smitty. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing better than the Penguins have been these last couple of games against Toronto and Carolina. That's for sure. I also have a question for you.
Yeah. When's
the last time that we did a giveaway? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's probably been a while. It's got to be at least. It might even be last summer. I don't know. I can't really think of any.
Can't have it. Sid just scored 500, so I'm thinking we should give away a Sidney Crosby jersey.
Oh, okay. That's a good one to give away.
So if you want to win this, what you're going to have to do, and this could be confusing if you are somebody that watches the live premieres at 2 p.m. every Monday, but what you're going to have to do is put in the comments 87, but not in the live chat, the actual comments of the video. Put in number 87 on the YouTube video of this show, not the live chat again, because that I think that you can go back and watch the live chat replay, but I'm not going to go back and watch the entire episode through and look at how many people put 87. So put them in the actual comments of the video, the number 87. If you're somebody that normally listens to the show, that's fine. But for this, you're going to have to go to the YouTube page and put in the comments the number 87. We'll pick somebody to win this jersey. So
awesome.
Staying on the topic of hockey for this first segment, our just one question from Twitter, to steal from DK right there, the just one question. Kevin wants to know, is it time to trade Kapanen?
You know,
how many times have we talked about Kasperi Kapanen in the last month?
That's what I said to you before we even started, is like, we're going to answer this question, but we've just been hammering Kapanen so much the past, month and a half. Yep. And so the answer is like, yeah, but what are you really going to get for him? And I think is the real question, because what can you get for him? His value has to be at an all-time low, I would imagine. And I don't know if it's just worth it for the Penguins management to just trade him for a 7th round pick, or even funnier, conditional 7th round pick.
Yeah, I know you're being facetious, but yeah, like truthfully, I think it's like two-sided, because there's going to be a team out there that I think will take that chance because of the pedigree, but he is also now he's a restricted free agent as opposed to an unrestricted, so maybe a team will look at that differently too and say that they still do have more control of him. But I'm looking at it more like they're more likely to make an even swap with a team that has another player like kind of that same maybe pedigree, but is also underperforming. And a name doesn't necessarily come to mind right away. But I really, the only way that I see him being traded is if you're getting back another guy in a similar situation who, even though he's not producing, you feel like does have top 6 upside. Just because I don't see them trading him away without getting an NHL player back. Like, we do have enough bodies where that could be the case. Like, we got Radim Zahorna sitting right now, who in my opinion shouldn't be. You're going to have Bluder and Jason Zucker coming back and really have a log jam.
Possibly another guy that should be traded.
Yeah. But he had that core surgery, so I really don't know, what that full time, he's not skating or anything yet, but like Bluder is and will be coming back in the, I don't want to say near future, relatively soon, probably before the trade deadline even happens. And I actually want to talk about him a little bit later, but yeah, to me, it's definitely been time to trade Kasperi Kapanen. Hindsight's 2020, but I'm a little upset that they didn't, capitalize on the value sooner, just because the underlying numbers were never really there. He was just shooting at such a high percentage, and that's, why the numbers look so good on the surface. And again, hindsight's 2020, but protecting him over Jared McCann could be kind of thrown into that same situation as like Jeff Carter and Teddy Bluder, which we talked about. Like, we would have loved to protect Jared McCann over those guys. I think now we're talking about there's at least 3 guys that they protected over Jared McCann that we would have liked them to not.
Yeah, if you went back and listened to our previous shows, or if you had listened to them when we were talking about the protection list for last offseason, both of us, I think, had Kapanen on our personal list out.
Yep.
Like, there was no way. And Kapanen is basically just the final nail in the coffin that was Jim Rutherford's tenure as the Penguins GM. And it could not be ending up in a worse way. Like, giving up that 1st round pick. And then, I know like Philip Hollander, he's back with the Penguins organization. Everard Rodriguez wasn't even a Toronto Maple Leaf ever. He ended up back in Pittsburgh like a few weeks later, I think. But the fact that we gave up that haul for Kasperi Kapanen and for him to perform the way he did. And now I had a lot of like hope for Kapanen when he came here.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he could turn it around here. Maybe in this top 6, it would be a good opportunity for him to flourish. And it just hasn't been that case. Like we saw it for a few weeks with Malkin last season, but as you said, the underlying numbers could be the reason that was the case. His shooting percentage was just so high. So maybe a hockey trade does make sense. Like by hockey trade, I think hockey fans know what I mean. Like the player for a player. It's just
no
2
draft picks
guys.
involved.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know who like you said, I don't know a name or who that could be, but I just don't think that he really has a place on this team, especially like whenever everybody comes back. I cannot justify playing him the way that he has been for the past month or two.
Hey, maybe Rutherford wants him again. We can get Brock Besser from Vancouver.
Hey, I would love that. I don't know that Brock Besser is exactly the hockey trade I would think of whenever it comes to trading Kasperi Kapanen. But I mean, even going beyond a trade, if he's with the Penguins this whole offseason, we've talked about before on the show as well, that we can't really justify giving him a qualifying offer either. Like, what's the qualifying offer going to be as an RFA to him? Like, I don't think it's going to be what he would want, but what he wants is probably not what he deserves based off of his like stats and what he's done in the game. I just don't really know a way that he's going to be on this team to start next season, whether it's he's traded or I just don't think that he's going to work out as an RFA and he'll become a free agent. I don't think Kasperi Kapanen is worth it.
Yeah. So looking at him right now, 9 goals, 15 assists, which, his 9 goals, Jake Dentz was 25. Brian Rust has 18 after today. Crosby has 14. Rodriguez has 16. Jeff Carter has 13. Danton Heinen has 11. Brock McGinn has 10. And Kasperi Kapanen has 9.
That's why I said a couple weeks ago or last week, whatever I said. I don't think we brought in Brock McGinn to be this offensive star for the Penguins, but he's outperforming someone who we thought would have more offense, who you thought would lead the team in goals. Not to keep rubbing your face in the dirt a little bit on that every week, but
I deserve it. I thought he'd have.
That's the expectation that we had for Kasperi Kapanen, and he's just way underperforming from that.
Yeah. We could spend all day talking about this probably, but we won't. We'll just leave it at, yes, it has been time to trade Kasperi Kapanen. Neither of us think he's going to be on the team next year, but will he actually be moved? That's going to come down to if they feel like it's worth it, or will they just hope that he bounces back in the rest of the second half of the season, provide some type of value for you, almost as like your own rental, if you will. But we'll leave it at that. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Steelers made a pretty interesting, wait for this, external hire to the coaching staff. So we'll talk about that when we come back. This is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. All right, and welcome back to Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. That is Tyler. I am Smitty. Remember again, number 87 in the comments to try to win a Sidney Crosby alternate jersey, the yellow. Don't know if we'll ever see those, by the way. I said yellow, I mean gold. Forget yellow. It's not black and yellow, Wiz. It's black and gold. Will we ever see these jerseys again, real quick? What's your answer on that?
Probably not. I think that they've moved on from it. It had its run, and after the performance that they had in the playoffs wearing those jerseys, I don't think they ever want to wear them again.
Dude, it's crazy how much the fan base cared about that decision. How much jerseys impacted things for them.
Like it made sense from a marketing standpoint to wear the gold jerseys, because their whole thing for the past, since that first cup run in 2016 was the gold rush. Was instead of like a whiteout, everybody had the gold jerseys on, or shirts on. So it made sense from that standpoint, but boy, did it not look good whenever they played.
Christian Jarry was not a fan of it. Maybe that was his way of boycotting the decision.
True. But yeah, I think they moved on. They've got the reverse retro, and actually, I don't even. This isn't even a reverse retro. Their black one isn't even. It's just, the black diagonal Pittsburgh is just an alternate, right? It's not the reverse retro. So they technically, I guess, still have the white reverse retro, but they're probably never going to wear that again.
Nah,
and
we'll see
I
the
think
black
they'll just
ones.
Move on for other alternates from there. But yeah,
I told you, like, I know that we should be talking about Brian Flores right now, but I think that the thing is, like, what reason do they have to not continue to put out a new jersey each year? Because they know people will buy them. It's a sales thing. So put out a new jersey every single year. They'll fly off the shelves. Switching gears here a little bit, though. Let's talk about Brian Flores, the newest addition to the Steelers coaching staff. This is a major hire, a guy that is way overqualified for the position that he's going to have on the Steelers staff as as a defensive assistant and linebackers coach on this team. Now, I mean,
senior defensive assistant.
Senior defensive assistant.
Senior defensive assistant.
He's you might as well say the defensive assistant,
that guy,
because he is going to be that guy. But where do we even start with this? Because to me, the first thing that, like, I think about is how much how much of his hand is going to be put into the pile here in terms of coming up with a game plan. He's very blitz heavy. He's one of the best at dialing up blitzes. To me, he's a top 10 defensive mind in football. And now you're adding him to a defensive staff with Mike Tomlin, which that's his strength. Dunbar in the defensive line, who's one of the best defensive line coaches, and Terrell Austin, who was great with the secondary. So you kind of have it now at every level of the defense. You feel like you have kind of like a mastermind.
Yeah. And I think that based off of like what you said, where he's very blitz heavy, I think we could go back to what would be more quote unquote traditional Steelers defense, where we see a lot of those blitz packages. But I honestly thought this was fake, to be honest. I was like,
is this sports talk, Barry?
So I was at work whenever the graphic came out of him and like the Pittsburgh, and I just saw it like on Facebook, but I didn't see it was from like the Pittsburgh Steelers official Facebook page. And I just thought it was like a fan edit that they were hiring him. And then I realized that it was a fan edit. I'm like, how in the world did you hire Brian Flores as just your linebackers coach and senior defensive assistant?
Yeah.
But how in the world does that happen? And this is a guy that I thought like maybe they bring him in for the defensive coordinator job if he doesn't get a head coaching job. I thought that would be a possibility, but not actually a reality. And the fact that he's in this position, I mean, it's great for the Steelers. They've got great coaches on the defense. I love the meme that you put out with the SpongeBob, with SpongeBob's hand is the defensive coaches and Squidward's hands, everybody being silent, is the offensive coaches. But I mean, I think this is going to have a huge impact. And I'm hoping the first thing it has a huge impact on is Devin Bush. And hopefully he gets back to that rookie Devin Bush. And finally, we can put to rest that, he just doesn't have it anymore. And like, hopefully he can be the player that we thought he was going to be. Because I mean, we spent a lot to get Devin Bush. We've traded up for him, and he hasn't like lived up to the expectations. There was a lot of complaints this season from you and I too, about his play. I'm just hoping that he can make him that downhill linebacker with the confidence again. And that's objective number one for me with Brian Flores coming in.
Yeah, same. I mean, it was the first thing that I thought of. The second thing that I thought of is, I hope that, and I don't think that there's anything to be worried about here, but I know that it's been highly talked about as any qualms that there might be for Brian Flores and Minka Fitzpatrick to be in the same organization again, due to how things went in Miami. But I don't think that there's going to be, whether that's just wishful thinking on my part. I just think it's a non-story. People are going to try to create a headline in the offseason until those guys are in the same building working every day, but I don't see anything there. If Flores was the defensive coordinator, and really was going to be the one calling the shots, or Tom was the one calling the shots, but, putting together the game plan defensively, maybe you could have more of an argument there, but I don't see it with him having the role that he does on this team. But yeah, like to your point, as far as like, how did we get to this spot now where we're talking about, we felt like a top half of the league coach got fired in Miami and now is demoted to this position. I think that there's just no other organization that, due to the lawsuit that he has against the NFL and 3 other teams due to their hiring processes, were really willing to touch him. But if there's going to be one team to do it, the Rooneys, who are the reason that the Rooney Rule is in place, along with Mike Tomlin, one of the 3 minority head coaches in the NFL, That seems to be the spot to do it. And it's a win-win move, in my opinion, because think about this now. This was brought up as well. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, look at me just thinking about this. If he were to end up getting another head coaching gig somewhere due to rules that were put in place by the NFL, the Steelers would then be compensated with a third-round pick as well.
Yeah.
So it's either Brian Flores is going to be in the organization now, or he's only here for 1 year, gets another head coaching job, and the Steelers get compensated for hiring him for a year, basically. So I don't see a way that this really goes south, unless, like I said, the very slim chance that for whatever reason, him and Minkah Fitzpatrick do have this really deep-rooted beef that they can't get over.
And, I mean, this is just completely hypothetical, but maybe even say Terrell Austin doesn't work out as defensive coordinator. Maybe that's
that's going to happen even if Terrell Austin is working out, I think, because I think that we're going to get to a point where people just think that like Brian Flores is more qualified to be a defensive coordinator over Austin anyway, and they're going to want him to be the defensive coordinator. I think by week 1, that's already going to be like a huge talking point.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that's an inside hire that you'd be fine with. He's like an inside hire. It's just so weird that we went from him being fired, like making no sense, by the way, winning 2 out of his 3 seasons, or having winning seasons 2 out of his 3 seasons. Meanwhile, the Dolphins prior to that for the past like 15 years had 2 winning seasons in that whole span. And now he's the linebackers coach on the Steelers.
The worst mistake that he made in Miami, and I don't know how much of a hand he has in the draft process, was taking Tua over Justin Herbert. Who knows how things go for him in Miami if he doesn't make that call? But again, is that more him? Is that more the GM? Was the owner, which is the current owner of the Dolphins, which might not be the owner much longer if the stuff that Brian Flores is saying is true, Stephen Ross. But I don't know. Yeah, Chris Greer and Flores and Stephen Ross. There was obviously some disconnect there. What that was, I don't know, but all I can say is I'm very happy to have him on the staff. And like you pointed out, to me, first things first, let's see what he can do with Devin Bush.
Yeah. And also, Brian, this is speaking from someone who has no idea, but we're not going to pay you to lose games. We're not going to pay you to make the linebackers worse. So,
can we get worse at linebacker? I don't know.
Honestly, probably no. After last season, probably not. Also, bad as actually talking about linebackers, I just wanted to ask you: do you think they should bring back Joe Schobert or no?
No, absolutely not. And listen, on paper, like I didn't know if that's where you were going with this, but I wanted to bring it up anyway, so I'm glad you did. Like on paper, Joe Schobert's skill set should have paired well with Devin Bush. The reason it didn't, I don't know. Like I don't know if it was more on Devin, if it was more on Joe. Like for whatever reason, it was. They say a match made in heaven. This was a match made in hell. Those two were horrible on the field together. And no, I don't think you can bring him back at that price tag, especially. He would have to be cut and maybe bring him back cheaper. And you just say like last year was last year. But I'm not doing that. I think that he's like the first guy I'm cutting basically. And then like Zach Banner would probably be next. So we'll see you, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a smart way to make some more room on the cap.
They can clear like $11 million more between those two.
Well, it isn't like they can clear like 15 between Schobert, Banner, and Joe Haig if they cut all 3 of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about Haig. Is Derek
like around
Watt kind of in that mix too?
What use does he have on the Steelers? Like he's a solid special teams player.
Yeah,
but to pay a special teams player $3.5 million a year, you signed him as a fullback. You don't use fullbacks in your offense, and I don't know if that even got worse whenever they brought in Canada. But I just don't think you can justify paying him what you do whenever he only plays special teams. Really, I mean, how many plays, honestly, has he really had on offense? Actually, I want to find out.
While you're doing that, I just want to say, like, yeah, I'm bringing back Miles Killebrew as like the special teams ace, and I'm cutting Derek Watt, and I'm probably spending like a day 3 pick on Connor Hayward, because I think that takes the role of them having to find a third tight end and also a fullback and let you cut Derek Watt. So I know that a lot of people probably are like, "Oh, you just want Hayward because he's Cam Hayward's brother." I think that there is definitely a role for him in the NFL. He plays special teams, like we're talking about Derek Watt doing. He also plays fullback, and he's got really solid hands, and he's got good footwork for a guy his size. And I think that he can basically alleviate the need for a third tight end, and you can roll with him, Gentry, and obviously Pat Freiermuth. So,
for how many running plays the Steelers have had this past year, like how many times Najee would run the ball in a game, or it would be quite a bit sometimes. He never had over 14% of offensive snaps in a game. And in that game, he had 9 snaps.
Okay.
Meanwhile, his special teams, that was the Denver game.
That would have been my guess, actually. I'm mad that I didn't say that out loud.
Meanwhile, on special teams, like we said, he's a great special teams player, so he's on special teams between like 70 to 75% of the time. But offensive snaps, I mean, just going down the list, 4, 0, 7, 2, 9, 6, 8, 7, 6, 2, 2, 6, 5, 3, 6, 3, 5, 8. That's last season. There's no reason that guy should be making $3.5 million. So maybe that is another one cut. So if you do cut Derek Watt, Joe Haig, Zach Banner, and Joe Schobert, you're getting like around like 18 million ish in more cap. And so you have like between like 57 to 59 million ish or whatever in cap space. So, I mean, that's a lot to work with going forward.
I want to ask you something, and I also want to get the people's responses in the comments about this. Does, in your opinion, adding Brian Flores to the staff mean anything in terms of like free agents trying to lure them that are familiar with Brian Flores, whether they were guys that were in New England with him or Miami with him or wherever? Because I know that there's like a ton, like people are mentioning Dante Hightower, who, you know, was in for a visit in 2017. He's a free agent again. A Landon Roberts, who's plays a lot of special teams. He's a solid downhill linebacker, but like especially guys like J.C. Jackson, a corner who's going to be highly coveted, probably going to get a nice payday. Stephon Gilmore, who also liked a tweet from Joe Hayden about how first class the Steelers organization was. So
yeah,
maybe something there as well. You know, we're always looking for these nuggets.
You know, with most coaches, I would probably say no. But with a guy like Brian Flores, I get the vibe from him like a Mike Tomlin vibe, where people just want to play with him. Like people like Mike Tomlin as a coach.
Well respected.
He's like, he's a players. I mean, people call him a players coach, but that doesn't mean like he's not always a bad coach itself. Yeah. The people like to play for him. And I get that sense from Brian Flores. So I think that could be a possibility. Like maybe we do see Stephon Gilmore in a Steelers jersey. Who knows? But I think that even though that he's not like the defensive coordinator, just the fact that he's on the staff, that could pay dividends in free agency to people wanting to come in.
I do want to say real quick, I know that we already answered our question, but I saw as I was going through here, Gary actually asked us a question while we were in the process of recording the show about, okay, so obviously like when Terrell Austin was hired, like the response was, doesn't really matter because Tomlin's calling the defense anyway. So why is it that we're so excited about the Flores hire because Tomlin's calling the defense anyway? I'll answer this first, and it's okay. I wasn't upset about that. Like, so I'm not probably the person to ask on this because I wasn't that upset about the Terrell Austin hire. I thought it made sense. I like what he's done with the secondary, so I was completely fine with it. I understand that Tomlin calls the shots. My thing is, once again, just going back to what he's going to do for the position group, and also, you know, like we're kind of talking right here, like, will it have any influence on guys coming into the organization from the outside? Whether that's free agents or, you know, maybe even like Dunbar's getting up there in age, maybe like, you know, a guy that he could bring from his staff, because Miami's always had really good defenses under Flores. So I don't know. I'm excited about it just for the fact that, like, in my mind, I'm thinking if there's going to be anybody that is going to revitalize Devin Bush's career, I think we just brought him into the organization.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I don't see him as a guy that's going to come in and be like the secret defensive coordinator, and he's actually calling the shots, even though he's just the linebackers coach. I was excited about it because of what it meant for possibly helping Devin Bush out and helping that group in general, because of how lacking we got from linebackers last year. We just didn't really get much production from them as a whole. And so I think that getting a really solid coach at that position group would be best for the Steelers. That's why I'm excited for it. I don't really think that it's It's the same
I
thing
just think
with the defensive coordinator position, like how Mike Tomlin calling the shots. I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to be calling the shots on how he preps his linebackers and coaches his linebackers, you know? So that's why I'm excited about him specifically at that position.
I just think too, like anytime you can add a former head coach to his staff, like it's rarely been a bad thing. I know that like maybe for him, he's taken a step back, but maybe at the same time that's like fueling his fire and he really wants to succeed here to get back into that head coaching rank. I don't know. Like, I just don't think that this can be a bad thing. Like, I don't see a way that this goes south. Like, I think that he's a well-respected guy around the league, and we just add a guy that's way overqualified for a position to a position. So I don't think it's a case of like having too many hands in the kitchen. I just think we added another great defensive mind to a staff that, again, the offensive side of the ball does not have. I think on the defensive side of the ball, they're in really good shape when it comes to the coaches they got.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of like whenever we have like too many good players at a position. We always say it's a good problem to have, but this isn't exactly a good problem. It's just a good thing that we have all these coaches that are qualified at these positions. And I think the defense is going to be probably better than last year with this addition because I'm hoping that it helps out the linebackers. I'm just hoping that the offensive staff can figure out something because the defense is, especially in staffing, is going to outshine them. And yeah, it is possible that they could be worse. I mean, Ben, for as many flaws as he had last year, might have even masked some of the other flaws.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, he still had times where he'd be able to like bring them back in the fourth, like we would see now. Like he was a part of the problem, obviously, with why they were in the hole to begin with.
Yeah,
but you know, he
still had something left in the tank. You know.
Yeah.
But now, without knowing who the quarterback is going to be, even if it is, we know it's going to be Mason Rudolph. I just don't really have much hope for that. And yeah, it could be worse. It could be pretty ugly.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. I feel like this offseason is going to fly by, to be honest with you, but so much intrigue to it. And this just added another storyline for us to talk about. When we come back, we'll wrap up as we always do, talking about the Pens. Sidney Crosby scoring his 500th goal. It wasn't the only thing that happened this week, but we will talk about that. This is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Alrighty, and welcome back to Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. That is Tyler. I am Smitty, and this is a Sidney Crosby jersey that we're giving away because he scored his 500th goal. So comment 87 in the YouTube chat. Again, not like the live premiere chat that is
YouTube
scrolling.
Comments, not chat.
Yes.
Not live chat. YouTube comments on the
comments,
video.
Not chat. I need to make that very clear because I'm not going to go back and look at those. So the comments section of the video, not the live chat during the 2 p.m. premiere on Monday. But 87 in the comments. All right, so let's talk about the Pens. Let's talk about Sidney Crosby scoring his 500th goal. Pretty perfect. His 50th goal against the Flyers, his 150th power play goal, his 500th goal, all comes on the same goal. Evgeny Malkin with the only assist on the goal. Flyers, PPG Paints Arena. It couldn't have been more perfect. The only thing that could have been, I guess, if it was a backhand, maybe.
Yeah, or one-handed.
Yeah.
Or batted like out of the air. One of the many ways Sid can score a goal. Yeah, it was really poetic of Sidney Crosby's career of how he scored his 500th goal against that team in that arena. From the guy that he did, it was great. Although going down to one knee, that's also a classic Sid move. Yeah. And when he does that, you know it's going in. So I don't really think it could have been much better. The reception was amazing. Seeing the team flow over the boards and go celebrate with him, that was awesome. It looked like they just won a freaking playoff game. No, it was just Sid scoring his 500th goal. That's how big of a deal it is. He's what, the 48th or something like 46th player to ever do it. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it except it was an amazing moment. They celebrated it a little bit more on the game on Sunday as well. He got a couple cool things like memorabilia or mementos, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this should have happened a long time ago. Because of all the injuries, that was not the case. But
Shortened
I'm happy
seasons.
that we could celebrate it now. And the fact that we even got to see him get to 500 with the question of whether Sidney Crosby would play hockey again a decade ago, we're just really blessed to be able to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild how many, as Pittsburgh sports fans, we always talk about how spoiled we are, but just like watching a Hall of Fame career play out the way that we have, like since he came into the league and was tabbed as like being that guy immediately, and just knowing like this guy's a Hall of Famer. As soon as he stepped on the ice, we knew it.
Yeah.
And like for him to live up to those expectations and exceeding those expectations has been unreal. And like you said, like just the scene, for everybody. And that just goes to show how well respected he is for as great of a player as he is. He's a Hall of Fame player, first ballot, obviously. He's an even better teammate in person. And he just exemplifies everything that's right about sports, and everybody that's ever come across him will agree with that. The only people that ever have anything bad to say are just salty fans of other teams that deep down really struggle to actually find something to hate the guy for, other than just the success that he's had against whatever team it is that they root for. So nobody is a better, baton holder for the NHL. And he's holding on to that thing still as much as Connor McDavid's trying to pry it away from him.
Yeah. And what sucks is that even though they won the game, as much as we wanted that to be a blowout, Casey DeSmith was really trying to let Sid lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of like fire drill. It looked like a fire drill a lot of the time in the defensive end. Like they were not good in front of him. But yeah. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like just constantly coming out of the net and trying to play pucks, but not actually able to play the puck. Just like
it looked like
he was just all over the map.
To what we were talking about before his last couple starts, because we thought he had been doing pretty well over his last like 2 or 3 starts. But then this game against the Flyers this past week, he just kind of reverted back to what he had been before that, and just like kind of the underwhelming, like kind of keeping them a little bit out of the game himself. But the Pens managed to crawl back and win that game, scoring 2 goals in the third period, like 20 seconds apart or something. Chad like Ruhwedel. That. Not even. Yeah, Chad Ruhwedel, who actually got a 2-year extension. So good for him.
But yeah, the Pens did come back and win that game. Chris Letang gets the OT winner, where he kind of, before Matt Stafford threw a no-look pass during the Super Bowl on Sunday, Chris Letang had a no-look goal as he kind of looks off Crosby and decides to fire at 5-1. Carter Hart beats him. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows this week for the Pens.
Nope.
They got smacked up in Toronto. They put up 46 shots, but it didn't feel that way, if you know what I mean. Like, if you just looked at the box score of the game, you're like, the Pens didn't really play bad. They just got goaltended by Jack Campbell, but they had a season high 14 turnovers in that game. I thought that the worst players on the ice were their best players, and Sidney Crosby, Chris Letang and company.
Sid had like 4 turnovers himself.
Yeah, just not a good night up in Toronto. And that's something that, you can kind of just brush away, say it wasn't their day, move on. Then Sunday comes around against the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes get off to a pretty quick start against them. The Pens stayed with them for a little bit, but Carolina was definitely the better team in the first period. Second period starts 9 seconds in. Jordan Staal scores his 4th goal of the season. Doesn't do much of that these days. He's primarily there for his defense. He shuts down top units, and that's why Sullivan was kind of keeping Sid away from him. But the Pens did come back. They had momentum. I thought they were the better team in the second period overall. Third period starts. Guess what happens 9 seconds in? Carolina scores again.
Yeah, I got to say, I haven't really seen that. 2 goals, like less than 10 seconds into each period.
Yeah, and imagine Mike Sullivan, has as intense of a head coach as he is, and as detail-oriented of a coach as he is, having that happen twice in the same game. I can't imagine what the conversations were like in the locker room, not just between the second and third period, but also following the game. But, they did try to fight back. They even had a chance at the end there to tie it, but they don't. And Carolina moves into first place in the division. Where do we view that? This is actually a question that came in too, but obviously we didn't answer it then. We can kind of touch on it here. Like, where do we view the Pens in terms of that upper echelon of teams? Because I don't think that this performance in Toronto is also a really good team. That doesn't make me really question the Pens as a whole, but watching them play these upper echelon teams, I'm not going to say there's times where they look like they don't belong on the ice or in a different league or anything like that, but it's just they've definitely had play carried against them playing these teams that are in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference.
I would say that the Pens, if you want to put like
tiers,
Florida, Carolina, Tampa, like all those teams, like right at the very top, the Pens are right below that, and they're not quite in the same tier just because of the inconsistency of play, like we saw this week.
Do you think they're with like the Rangers? Maybe like
I would say Rangers, Capitals. I mean, honestly, even though they got outplayed, I don't think the Maple Leafs are in a different class than the Penguins. I think that they're probably pretty similar. I just think you're probably looking at like the couple at the very top. I think like the Maple Leafs, the Bruins, Rangers, Capitals, they're all in that same with the Penguins. I just think that with the Penguins specifically, though, it's because of the inconsistency of the play that we have seen. At times they look completely dominant, but it's for too short of the game. They need to have entire games like that and not just one period or not just 10 minutes of play. I think that because of that, that's why I'm holding them out. I think they could be, and maybe they will be once they get like people healthy and they figure out their lineup situation. But I think that as of right now, they're still a really good team. Like we've seen, like just because they had two like poor games, I'm not going to say that like, oh, they suck now. I just think that they're like right behind those couple of teams like the Florida and the Carolina. I mean, Carolina is a really good team. Florida's a really good team. I mean, arguably those are like the best teams in the NHL. So it's not like a bad thing to be right behind them either.
Yeah, I think that they're a top 5 team in the East still, and I think that they're probably a top like 7 team overall, because it's like you look at the West, it's Colorado, and then it's I don't even know who the second best team is out there.
Colorado and
like,
a bunch of fans.
Yeah, they got 12 points on the second best team right now in the West, so they're winning the West. But you look at the East and how that could play out. It's very interesting. We feel like we know who the playoff teams are going to be, but how does it shake out in terms of matchups? I get a lot of like, and I think it might have been Hunter Hodes that put this out there. Like Carolina's team this year feels a lot like the 2016 Penguins team. I think that they're like that good. I mean, it would be fun to watch a Pens-Canes 7-game series, but playing them would scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, I think that the only advantage in that scenario, or at least relating it to the 2016 Penguins, is that the 2016 Penguins, I think, just caught everybody off guard by how fast they were. Mm-hmm. Now that's just today's game. So at least the Penguins have that, but I don't really know if I call it an advantage. I think, like the style of play is very similar.
I look at their speed game, which I know that you're saying like everybody's getting fast, but they look like they're even like a step above that. And just the way that they insulate the goaltender as well. They keep everything to the perimeter. You really don't get shots from that slot. Like the fact that the Penguins had a couple breakaways today and decent looks was an anomaly. They don't give up those types of chances. So if the Penguins would have cashed in, they could have very well stolen 2 points in a game that they had no business winning. Like I said, they only lost this game by 1 goal, even though the Penguins were outclassed for most of the game in pretty much every facet by the Hurricanes. So yeah, I think that I'm right there with you though. I think Carolina, Tampa, and Florida are probably like, along with Colorado, if we're including the West, they're like the top 4. And then I think you start having a conversation about who's behind those guys, but the Penguins are definitely right there. One guy it was nice to see happen in Sunday's game, even though it was a losing effort. Evan Rodriguez gets off the schneid. He was stuck on 15 goals since like 2010.
Yeah, I had to take off my glasses. I'm like, oh my goodness, is that Evan Rodriguez? Haven't scored in forever. But yeah, it was great. I mean, like you said, it was a losing effort, but it was like 6-on-4, I think, at that
power
point.
Play, 6-on-4 power play.
So, but still, the fact that he finally got one in, maybe this will open up the floodgates for him. Maybe he just needed that one because it was his first goal in 19 or 20 games or something like that. It was a long time. I don't think he's scored since. Has he scored in 2022?
Oh, he had to have.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But I think that it's at least good to see him get on the board.
He scored January 6th against Philly for sure. That's as far back as this will go. So
okay. So maybe that was his last goal.
But it's definitely been well over a month. It's been about 6 weeks since his last goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hopefully this pays out and he starts to get on the board a little bit more, and maybe that'll flow throughout the team itself. Maybe Kasperi Kapanen can get some of that. I don't know.
Doubt it. Another thing I want to bring up with the Pens, though, I don't know that like we know how important this guy is, and I know that I just mentioned earlier, like I would have protected Jared McCann over him. I don't know that we realized how big of a loss Teddy Bluter would be when he went down. Like we knew it would be a big loss, especially like for penalty killing and defense. But you look at just like, and maybe it is coincidental. We'll see when he comes back. But he goes out and the bottom six just decides no one's scoring anymore. It's all on that top line in the power
play. What's really
play.
funny is that we're having a serious conversation about this now. We were joking about this like 3 weeks ago, but like, was Teddy Bluger seriously driving the offense of the bottom six? Well, maybe he was.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's more about not necessarily just him, but like what it does for the lineup combinations, because you know that he'll play with Brock McGinn and Zach Aston. I shouldn't say we know, because they've moved McGinn up to like top six role at times, but assuming that those three are just reunited when they're healthy, it changes the way that you would construct the lineup. And maybe that's the reason. It just gives you more depth and allows you to do different things with the lineup. But it's odd that
I was gonna say,
as soon as he went out.
Yeah, and for his line specifically, I think that good defense is what drives good offense as well. And so for him, and if it's McGinn and Zach Aston Reese, I think that having that line together and driving that good defense and really responsible hockey in your own zone is what springs that offense for them. So maybe it
springs
does
the
have
offense
more of
for everybody besides Zach Aston Reese.
Yeah. 100th percentile in defense last season, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe it does spring that offense forward. Hopefully he comes back soon. How close are we? I mean, it's been a while. I think
he's been on he's been on the ice skating and stuff with Ty Hennis and stuff. I think that we're probably looking at he's definitely want to get in some practices that are contact, but like the fact that it's his jaw, it's not like a lower body thing where you got to see how he responds to skating and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say within the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I think he's definitely back before the deadline. But
me, the fat guy sitting on the couch, dude, you're a hockey player. Just suck it up.
Yeah, it's tough. There is a precedent there to go based off of, guys returning from that injury. But yeah, I don't know. But I think it's the understatement of the year to say that they've missed him. Even the penalty kill's taken a little bit of a step back, and maybe that's just the competition they've played recently. I don't know.
If Teddy Bluger's playing, does Sebastian Aho score that goal? We'll never know.
True. We will never know. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know that I have anything else. You just want to keep talking about Kasperi Kapanen? I'm kidding, by the way.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't want to keep talking about him, but we have to because of how bad he's been. But we can leave that for next week when we bring him up.
You know what?
We know we're
going
to.
I'm going to go out on a limb. He's going to score a goal before the next time that we have a conversation on here.
Well, the next time that he
they have a short
goal.
Oh, wait, I don't know if I should say that. I don't think they have a short.
They've got 3 games this week. So they play the Devils on Thursday, they play the Rangers on Saturday, and they play the Blue Jackets.
Oh yeah, they do still have
on
3.
Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was only 2.
This is like 5 out of 6 weeks that we've had a Sunday game.
Yeah.
It's like 5 out of the last 6 weeks.
And
it's
Sundays, like you said, is later though too. It's a weird time.
Yeah,
6 p.m.
4 o'clock.
Well, 4 for you. Yeah, sorry.
4 for me. Yeah, I'm in Utah, folks. But yeah. So, do you think he? Call your shot. Which game's he scoring in?
The Rangers, Saturday afternoon.
All right, sounds good.
So don't expect to still see everybody complaining, including me, against the Devils on Thursday. But
he's gonna score those extra 24 goals for you to get the goal lead by the end of the season.
Dude, there was a point today, I don't know if you heard it, that he was getting booed after he turned the puck over. He did his normal, like, crossed the line and curled back, and then he made a pass to nobody, turns the puck over, and you could actually hear some boos.
Really quickly, I don't get why he does that. Like, you have so much speed. Why do you curl back like that? Just skate in and take a shot. I don't care if it goes in or not. I'd rather see that than you just stop.
He's got no confidence right now. That's the biggest thing in my opinion.
Yeah, well, no one has confidence in him either, so I guess it makes sense. Yeah, hopefully he does score against the Rangers. We'll see.
But yeah, other than that, like I said, put 87 in the comments, not the live chat. I can't make that more clear to you guys. But one last time, wanted to say that. Let us know in the comments as well, anything throughout the show that you guys want to chime in on. We'll definitely be in the comments with you guys, talking with you throughout. So just let us know any topics that you want to chime in on. Let your opinion be heard.
This goes for everybody listening on like Spotify and Apple or wherever you listen as well.
100%.
Go over to the comments or go over to the video, comment 87. You get a chance as well. You don't have to only watch on YouTube.
And if you want to get a question into us for us to use on the next episode, you can put that in the comments as well. You could tweet it at us. Our email's there if you also want to email us for some reason. I don't know. DM. However, whatever means, we'll definitely check it. So get at us on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Be sure to subscribe to the DK Pittsburgh Sports YouTube channel. Leave us a like. Be here at 2 p.m. every single day of the week for the live premiere of all the shows. Check out DK's Daily Shots, all that good stuff. It's all right here. You don't need anywhere else for your Pittsburgh sports content. Other than that, we will see you guys a week from today. For Tyler, for Smitty, this is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network.